key weapon in the fight against terrorists may be in jeopardy. Drones operate in Afghanistan, but if the Pentagon is forced to pull most of our troops from there by the end of the year, the U.S. military could lose the bases to operate its drone program against Pakistan militants, against terrorists, jihadists there. Christian Whiton joins us. He's a former State Department senior advisor. He's author of Smart Power Between Diplomacy and War. Well, it's already happening, isn't it? I mean, in 2010, we had 122 drone strikes against terrorists in Pakistan. It's now been reduced last year to 26 strikes.
That's right. And what this is the Obama administration strategy of only going after what they call core al-Qaeda. And that sounds good, but the fact is we have a lot more to worry about. There's the Taliban, there's the Haqqani, there's a lot more to Islamist militantism and terrorism. And so, unfortunately, we do need the ability to act in Central Asia, which we may be losing.
Yeah. You know, Intel Committee Chairman Mike Rogers, you know, who knows a lot because he's got all of the confidential top secret information. He calls President Obama's changed strategy on these target strikes as, quote, an utter and complete failure, leaving Americans at risk. Is he right?
I think so. Even the strategy of relying on drones, which we're now about to lose, but even shifting from that, from a more pervasive approach of gathering intelligence on the ground, operating on the ground, a higher risk strategy that actually pays higher rewards, that was better because you can't read people's intentions from 30,000 feet. You can't get tips from 30,000 feet. There's a limit to what you can achieve from overhead imagery. But drones are better than nothing, and that's what's at risk here, that after the end of this year, we'll be down to nothing in Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Yeah. You know, when President Obama ordered the so-called surge strategy, which essentially he borrowed from his predecessor in Iraq, he simultaneously announced the withdrawal of troops and gave a specific timetable. I mean, was he essentially saying to the terrorists, hey, take a vacation, wait us out, you'll win?
I think so. And if you look at Robert Gates's new book, you know, Gates a lot of times tries to have it both ways, but he shows a president that is essentially churlish in his objections to the military doing their jobs, the military coming and saying, hey, we want to implement the strategy that you have ordered, a counterinsurgency strategy, but we need this amount of forces to do it. And by the way, let's not telegraph our departure date to the enemy. You know, a lot of Americans want to get out of Afghanistan, and that is understandable, and it is time to pull back in transition. But this is the region that gave rise to 9/11, and we need to maintain some ability to collect intelligence and to operate in this part of the world.
It's been said that President Obama made little or no effort for a status of forces agreement to keep troops in Iraq. As a result, his critics say, you know, Iraq is now a terrorist mess. Al-Qaeda has taken over Fallujah and Ramadi. Could the same thing happen in Afghanistan? Does it appear as though it's headed in that direction? And if so, would that make President Obama's Afghan strategy also a failure?
It would. It not only is possible, I'd say it's likely to happen. You know, having troops present in a country doesn't mean they're going to go off and fight every fight. If we had troops today in Iraq, I don't think they would be on the front lines in Fallujah for a third time in that city. But it gives you political power. It makes the foreign government listen to you. It means you have a stake in the game, and you can manage political outcomes. For example, the contest between Alawi and Maliki in Iraq, which went the wrong way for the United States. It means that Iraq turned towards Iran. Having troops, having a presence in Afghanistan would give us the ability to influence events there somewhat. But unfortunately, I think secretly the Obama administration would like to fail there, would like the excuse, and unfortunately, Afghan President Karzai is providing an excuse to basically walk out of Afghanistan completely.
Karzai recently said that he and President Obama have not spoken directly since June. I mean, Christian, how can that be?
And this is the administration that said it was going to do diplomacy. It said, you know, we're going to move away from those cowboys and neocons of Bush Cheney, and we understand nuance and we understand diplomacy. You know, President Bush got on the phone on a teleconference every single week with Iraq's prime minister and spoke very frequently with Karzai, and not because he enjoyed doing it, but because it's part of your job as commander-in-chief. And this is a president who really has no peers among foreign leaders, who is aloof, who is not involved in key security interests, and it's a real shame, because it's hurting our interests.
Well, it may be time to fire up the helicopters on the chopper pad on the roof of the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. Christian Whiton, good to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay.